What's up, everybody? Welcome into this Sunday night, I guess technically Monday morning now, edition, because Sunday Night Football ran so long, of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Mike Renner, JP Acosta, going to break down all the Week 13 action. JP, though, I haven't seen you in a while. Usually we do the Thursday show. It's been since Wednesday that we've had this. How was your Thanksgiving, brother?
It was good. Had its ups. It was great spending time with family. My car battery died while I was in Gainesville. It's about an hour and a half away from home. So on the bright side, I do get to look for a car, which should be fun. But, leaving my car in Gainesville was a little bit of a wild experience.
Knock on wood, never had my car battery die, but that sounds miserable. I've had blown out tires, and those you can fix yourself. You get back on the road. Having a car battery die, you're reliant on someone else to come get you. So I do not wish that upon anyone. Anything good for Thanksgiving that you ate?
Oh man, so much good food that we ate. My grandparents' house, my aunt made pound cake. It was incredible. It was great being able to hang out with everybody. And then over at my girlfriend's mom's house, we had a turkey roll, which is really good. It's from New Orleans. It was amazing. So it was good just getting to eat all the great food and just hang out and watch football.
I will say, you got to give a hat tip to the NFL too. They had a good slate. This was a very good Thanksgiving slate. We'll get to that at the end. But let's start here with Sunday Night Football. Broncos at Commanders. It ends 27-26 in overtime. We were joking that you may have fallen asleep a little. You may have nodded off a little in the third quarter. I feel like the Broncos are turning into the criticism of the NBA, where you don't have to flip them on until the fourth quarter. Basically, the first three quarters, you can ignore Broncos games. It doesn't happen until the fourth quarter where you really got to start paying attention.
Yeah, this game was sort of the antithesis of most of Bo Nix and the Broncos offense games, where Bo Nix and the offense, largely Bo Nix in the passing game, played really well through the first three quarters. I was actually impressed with the way that he was throwing the ball, the confidence that he was throwing it with. The touchdown, the Cortland Sutton, was really freaking cool, where he's falling and he's trying to escape the pocket and he's throwing it as his knee's about to hit the ground. It was really cool. We don't have to say it was my homie, because that's really they're taking a step too far. But it was a really cool play that I didn't think Bo Nix could do. But outside of that, I thought that the game plan offensively and the adjustments that Sean Payton and Bo Nix made during that second to third quarter, they really started to attack Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu in coverage with Evan Ingram. This was sort of where the Joker, I guess we call it the Joker position in Sean Payton's offense. This is where it sort of came to fruition. You think about the big 41-yard play to Evan Ingram in overtime. It's on a juke route. I actually think it was Hoss wide juke, where you have Evan Ingram isolated against Bobby Wagner, and Bobby Wagner looks his age on that play. But this game was it was the antithesis of what people thought of Bo Nix and the Broncos offense, because for the first three quarters, normally the Broncos offense is horrible, and then they turn on the fourth quarter. But this game, they were amazing in the first three quarters and fell apart and couldn't put this game away in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that pick he threw was one of the worst picks you'll ever. I mean, Bobby Wagner did not have to move. That was almost like one of those where, in soccer, when you've got a one-on-one and when you're growing up and you can't help but just stare right at the goalie, and so you kick it right to the goalie. That's what it felt like. It's just dead center of Bobby Wagner's chest. But then the overtime drive was obviously just efficient. It felt almost like the Commanders got the call where it's like, hey, let them score. Let's just lose this game. We're 3-8. Season's over. Let's get a top 10 pick here, because they are currently slated to draft 6th after today's game. Now, they will be losing any strength of record ties between teams like the Giants, Raiders, Browns, who are also tied with them with record. But they at least, you see them play this game, they at least have a chance to win games down the stretch. Whereas I'm looking at teams like the Raiders, Saints right now, I don't think those teams are winning any more games.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. And if anything, from the Commanders' perspective, what this game showed me is that Cliff Kingsbury can design an offense, can design a legitimate passing game. And I think something that Marcus Mariota and Cliff Kingsbury were sort of trying to do, I thought for a large part of the game, especially after the Treylon Burks touchdown, which was the best catch of the season, in my opinion. After that play happened, they sort of believed their own hype and just kept throwing 50-50 balls to Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Treylon Burks. And you're not going to win those a lot if you're throwing against Pat Surtain II. And most of the time, you're not winning against Riley Moss. Of course, Moss was in coverage on that Treylon Burks touchdown. But for the most part, he actually played fairly well. But where they changed and where they started to adapt is whenever Vance Joseph and the Broncos would send them cover 2, they're trying to hammer them, throwing it downfield. All the simulated pressure stuff that they would do, they're playing cover 2 behind it. And what the Commanders would do is they just max protect and then just send somebody running down the middle of the field and just try and really hit them hard downfield. It's the Alex Singleton play where he's running with Zach Ertz. It's actually a really cool pass on Marcus Mariota, and Singleton punches through and makes a great play on the ball. The first Terry McLaurin touchdown to almost win the game that gets called back because of a really bad holding call. That was cover 2 and McLaurin splitting the middle of the field. I think that was a really great adjustment. It was a great game by Marcus Mariota, who had a lot of ups and downs because he's a backup, but Mariota played really well, and he gave this team a chance to win in the end.
Where would we rank Marcus Mariota in the, hey, he might get a starting role on a bad team sweepstakes, which I have a list here of guys who are kind of in those sweepstakes right now. In free agency this year, it's Marcus Mariota, Trey Lance, Mitch Trubisky, Malik Willis. Via trade, if you really want to go target them based off of what you've seen this year, you have Jameis Winston, Davis Mills, Mac Jones, Tanner McKee, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson. How high are we putting him up on this list, or is it kind of that ship's completely sailed with Mariota?
So I think with Marcus Mariota, I would take him after Jameis, Mills, Mac, McKee.
Okay.
But I think I would take him above all the free agent quarterbacks. I think the thing with Marcus Mariota is he can still throw the ball. He can still create off schedule. He's a good runner. But I also think this is the perfect offense for him to be the backup quarterback in.
Yes.
Because it is so schemed up and schemed around the quarterback's ability to use his legs. I don't think Jameis Winston would fit in this offense. Just like I don't think Marcus Mariota would really fit in the offense Jameis Winston is in. I don't think Marcus Mariota would fit where Davis Mills is at. And just like with Jameis Winston, Davis Mills would not fit in the Marcus Mariota offense that he's in Washington. So I think he is in the perfect place for him. I would love to see the Commanders give him just like a 1-2 year deal to keep him around, because in the event that Jaden Daniels gets injured, you have a guy that you can win games with and make games competitive with.
Broncos now 98% chance to make the playoffs. Basically all but a lock at this point, according to The Athletic. Almost an 80% chance to win the division too, according to them. Their schedule going forward: Raiders, Packers, Jaguars, Chiefs, Chargers. Are they your AFC West champions?
I think so. Given everything that is wrong with the Chiefs and the Chargers, and we'll get to both those teams later, it just feels like Denver has the least flaws. And I also think that while again, we might have our questions about Bo Nix is playing really confidently right now. And I think a confident quarterback and a defense that can really win you games, I think that's a good recipe for success. So I think that they're definitely going to win the AFC West.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't see this as a sign of weakness, so to speak. I mean, they're not a dominant football team. They have 2 losses, but they really aren't, and have never really been this season dominant football team. But they know they're last year's Chiefs, kind of, without like a really great fourth quarter quarterback, but like kind of have had a great fourth quarter quarterback in Bo Nix for most of the season. So they're going to eke by, win a lot of close games like this, and yeah, I still think they probably are your AFC West champs because of it.
They did on the game-ending play. It was a great play call by both Cliff Kingsbury and Vance Joseph, but a better play by Nick Bonito. I thought it was awesome. It was very much like that's just football kind of play. So they're going to run mesh traffic. Everybody, if mesh traffic is, you're going to have all your receivers lined up to one side, and they're going to run all the way to the right, and your running back in the backfield is going to run the opposite way because you're creating traffic. It's a great play against man coverage. You want to create a pick without actually running a pick route. So what happens is they motion McNichols from out wide back to next to Mariota, and you get the man zone tell. And it's a perfect play. This is a walk-in touchdown. But what happens is Vance Joseph and the Broncos call an all-out blitz. They're playing cover zero behind this. So what happens is Laramie Tunsil ends up sliding to protect Mariota's interior from the blitzing linebacker, leaving Nick Bonito unblocked. And Bonito was sort of quiet in this game. I think he got away with a little bit of being offsides, but he had a relatively quiet game. He was kind of flushed out of pass rush situations. Laramie Tunsil is amazing, but this play he was unblocked, and I'd much rather leave a linebacker unblocked than Nick Bonito coming off the edge right where you're throwing it. It's just great play design, better play by a great player in the NFL.
That one's got to hurt for Kingsbury because you had it. You had it exactly the look you wanted. You had Talanoa who finally got trapped and got caught in the wash. And Bonito just makes the perfect play. All right. There's Broncos-Commanders. We're going to take a quick break. After that, going to get to the big number for every other game in Week 13.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
Bills at Steelers. Bills win 26-7. The big number from this game, 249. That is the amount of rushing yards the Bills had, the most in Heinz Field / Acrisure Stadium history, as they reminded you 20 times in the broadcast. Just an outright beatdown for the Buffalo Bills. Although I thought, until the Aaron Rodgers fumble, I thought it was setting up to be a perfect Mike Tomlin slop it up masterclass because they were getting their ass kicked in the first half, but still going into halftime with the lead.
So this really felt like you said, this was supposed to be like a traditional Steelers, like Mike Tomlin type of game. The interception Josh Allen threw was incredibly stinky. And then they just decided like, hey, the Steelers can't defend the run. So the 249 rushing yards they mentioned, those are the second most given up in Mike Tomlin's career as a head coach. It's tied for the second most that a Mike Tomlin team has ever given up as a coach of the Steelers. The first was, I believe, a 2020 game against the Ravens where they gave up like 260 yards on the ground. And I actually thought it was really interesting. Penn Live's Nick Farabaugh asked after the game, asked TJ Watt what was going on and what they were doing. And TJ Watt was sort of just like, yeah, they just kept running duo and we couldn't defend duo. And I think it's the result of how the Steelers are built and where their flaws come from. Like we talk about a lot, the Steelers' edges are built to get upfield. TJ Watt, Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith are all pass rush first. They are predominantly going to try and get up the field. They're going to try and bend around the corner. They are not heavy players against the run. So in duo, you're forcing them to play the run. You're forcing them to set an edge because you also want to keep your corners like Joey Porter Jr. You're trying to keep them out of conflict. You're trying to keep them out of the run fit because of how much single high they play. Because they play so much cover 3, so much cover 1, you're not going to have the corner in the run fit as often. So the Bills basically force their edges to defend duo and force the corners and defensive ends to make plays. And they didn't make any plays. Joey Porter had an awful day tackling on the Josh Allen touchdown run in the third quarter. He sees Josh Allen turn the corner and he kind of gives like a half effort at tackling him. And sort of like, he goes for like the arm tackle / like peanut punch and just ends up flying 5 yards back into the end zone. And then every time they'd run duo, they're running off the right side And you couldn't tell Spencer Brown wasn't in this game because they kept hammering him over and over. And I feel like this was a game that really illustrates how far behind the Steelers are when it comes to building a modern defense and building a modern team.
Yeah, and duo specifically as concept is one that you kind of just have to eat it. You can't try to get around the double teams and get upfield. That's when you leave the gaps, and that's when you get gashed on the interior. You just have to have guys who can sit down and reset the line of scrimmage on their own. And it's been quite clear that the Steelers have not had those guys. And you didn't even mention that the Bills were without their starting tackles in this game. They did not have Deion Dawkins or Spencer Brown, and they still kicked their ass up front. That's just embarrassing if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers defense right now. And it just gives everyone, and it's kind of been the blueprint all year, but it gives everyone just like an obvious, like, hey, we can just, if they can do it with 2 backup tackles, we should be able to do this against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
On top of that, TJ Watt had 1 pressure on Sunday. The Steelers had 0 sacks as a team. And again, the Bills were missing both their tackles. Of course, part of that is due to Josh Allen being Josh Allen. But if you're not going to defend the run and you're also not getting pressures and converting pressures into sacks, what are we doing here? Like, what's the whole point of running this defense if you're not going to get pressures, you're not going to get sacks, and then on top of that, you're going to give up 250 yards on the ground? At that point, you might as well just pack it in.
And then on the flip side, Aaron Rodgers has the Steelers completed 10 passes all day. He obviously gets hurt, goes out a little in this one. No clue what the injury was. Obviously may have just re-injured the wrist, had the bloody nose, may have an injury there. But like, this offense, if you can only put up 7 points against the Buffalo Bills at home, I don't think anyone from the AFC North should make the playoffs. I'm just going to.
Me neither.
Can we get more? We can get another team out west, another team from the south. We don't need a representative from the north this year.
So I think the quote that best describes this game and how Aaron Rodgers factors into all of this. After the game, according to Brooke Pryor, who is the ESPN NFL reporter for the Steelers, asked how can Aaron Rodgers and his receivers get on the same page at this point in the season? Aaron Rodgers said, when there's film sessions, everybody shows up. And when I check to a route, you do the right route. We're in week 13. What? There's nobody showing up to film and people are running wrong routes in week 13? What are we doing here? The Bills are one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, and the Steelers had 66 yards on 15 carries. Just actively avoiding trying to run the football, although you have 7 offensive linemen on the field. If you're counting Darnell Washington and Spencer Anderson, you have 7 offensive linemen on the field a majority of the time. What's the point of this offense if you're going to try and minimize how much Aaron Rodgers has to affect the game, especially with a fractured wrist? If you're not going to run the ball or run the ball effectively, there's no point to this offense. There's nothing that's actually sustainable here. And if people are going to be running wrong routes and people are going to continue to just not execute in the passing game, there's nothing in this offense.
Steelers schedule going forward at the Ravens, home against the Dolphins, at the Lions, at the Browns, and then the Ravens at home in week 18. They're 6-6. Ravens are 6-6. Bengals are 4-8. Still kind of alive. Is this the first non-500 year of the Mike Tomlin era? I think it would be incredibly ironic that Aaron Rodgers would be the one to break that streak.
I think it is. I just don't think this defense is good enough. I don't think the offense is good enough. And especially if Aaron Rodgers is not going to be 100% healthy, there's nothing to hang your hat on if you're the Steelers. Like, what is the Steelers' identity? It's creating turnovers and hoping the other team screws up. That's not a very sustainable identity. And then on top of that, you already have like sort of this internal like dysfunction where after the game, Aaron Rodgers said that the energy and tempo were not good this week, according to another Steelers reporter for the Post-Gazette. And he said it wasn't a good week of preparation. Ask Cam Hayward about it. He just goes, ask Aaron. We're in week 13. I honestly thought this would happen earlier, but the fact that we're getting the Aaron Rodgers, like traditional things falling apart at this point in the season where the playoff push is supposed to be happening, the vibes are terrible right now in Pittsburgh.
Well, it's like, don't say we didn't warn you. This literally happened to every Aaron Rodgers team for the last 3 years. Unfortunately, it's kind of how it's gone. Let's get on. Let's get off Steelers. Let's go to Texans-Colts, a division worth discussing here. The AFC South. Texans win 20-16. And my big number from this one, it's 39%. That was the success rate of the Colts offense in this game. Their second lowest all season. After 38% the week prior against the Kansas City Chiefs, they were leading the NFL, second in the NFL at 51% before these past 2 weeks and have had their two lowest of the season. For context, a success rate below 40%, which is what they've done the past 2 weeks. There's only two offenses in the NFL that are below 40% for the season. It's the Titans, it's the Browns. That's bad. And they have been bad the past 2 weeks. Now, you can forgive the Texans, but the fact that it's back-to-back games like this, and yeah, Texans are a great defense, but I am very worried about the Indianapolis Colts, especially since Sauce Gardner goes down with a calf injury in this one.
It feels like the book is out on this Colts offense, and it is once again blitz Daniel Jones. Speed up the timing of this offense. Force them to play on their back foot. Daniel Jones in this game was 2 for 11 when he was blitzed. Of course, some of those were some really weird drops. Like Josh Downs had a really bad drop in this game. There was a lot of weird stuff that happened in this game with like the failed QB sneak on fourth down. But the down-to-down efficiency of this offense has kind of been sapped. And part of it, I wonder, is like teams are loading up to stop the run, and they're slowing down Jonathan Taylor. He had 85 yards on 21 carries in this game. And then you're forcing Daniel Jones to be a standard drop-back passer without the use of play action. And Daniel Jones, with a fractured fibula, probably not going to be able to do that. So now you're wondering, if you're the Colts, you're in crisis mode now. Like, you've gone from being like, hey, can we get the number 1 seed to we might not win the division. And that's not a great spot you want to find yourself in, especially going into next week. And looking at their schedule moving forward, they have the Jaguars twice. They have another game against the Texans. They have the Seahawks and the Niners. This is a really rough schedule for them to have, for them to be playing their worst football.
They are not actually currently even in first place in the AFC South. That belongs to your Jacksonville Jaguars. And yeah, it's tough down the stretch. I don't think they're winning the South when it's all said and done. I'm not even sure they finish above the Texans when it comes to the wild card, given how difficult that schedule is and given the fact that kind of got punched in the mouth by the Texans at home today. So, yeah, I'm worried. But on the flip side, this is kind of, say, closer to the Texans team I think we all thought we'd see all year. Not a disaster offensively the way they were early on, but obviously not one of the more high-powered offenses in the NFL, but just one that CJ Stroud can lift them enough to win games on the backs of an elite defense.
And I think with this offense, you're seeing a lot of growth from the young guys. Woody Marks is showing a little bit more decisiveness as a runner and receiver. Jaden Higgins is really stepping up in his role as the number 2 receiver next to Nico Collins, who was always going to give you those splash plays. He had 5 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown in this game. You're getting a lot of cool plays from Jalen Noel. You're getting the contributions that you need from every one of the young guys that you weren't getting early in the season. And while I still think CJ Stroud I think he played a little rusty. There were some points where he made some really nice throws, but he also ran into some bad sacks. So I still think there's a cap on this offense. But if your cap is 20 points, with the way this defense plays, you can win a lot of football games because it's going to be really hard to score 20 points on them. I mean, they just have splash players everywhere. Once they have momentum killers, you know how like when teams used to play like the Warriors back when they were like 73-9, and you would think you were going on a big run, like you put like 10 straight points, and then like Steph Curry hits a 3-pointer from the logo, and it's like, oh shoot, like now he's starting to heat up. Like it just kills all the momentum that you have. That's what the Texans defense feels like, where they just have drive enders, momentum enders. They have Will Anderson Jr., who had one of the coolest like pass rush reps of the season, where he's lined up as a spinner over Tanner Bortolini and pushes him right back into Daniel Jones. Daniil Hunter's playing awesome football. Derek Stingley, Jalen Petre's back. And then they're getting growth from Kalen Bullock. And you just have so many guys who can force the momentum to go back towards the Texans. And that's a sign of an elite defense. I think they're on pace to allow the least yards per game in the NFL since the 2009 Jets. Like that's historic levels. So if you can get just get okay from this offense, it should be enough.
Yeah, they have guys who, all things being equal, they will go above and beyond. Like you think there's a window there that they'll close it in a manner that's just like, you got to almost tip your cap to him. And I even throw Kalen Bullock in there. He made plays like that today. The safety, second-year safety, where it's just like, damn, your average safety in the NFL ain't making plays like that. And they have so many of those guys littered throughout this defense. And it really is. It's just, you are going to have to get some big plays to beat the Texans team. You're not going to consistently move the football down the field, as we saw with the Colts today. Let's move on to the other AFC South matchup. Jags at Titans. Jags blow them out 25-3. Nice little palate cleanser here for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Get it done. Keep it moving.
So my big number for this game is plus 13%. That is the Jaguars' increase in chances of winning the AFC South after today, according to Next Gen Stats. This game was not close. It was 25-3. This game wasn't close at all, actually. Like it looked like a playoff team playing against a team that should be picking first overall. And that's what you're expecting when you're a Jaguars fan with the team playing the way they did. And I feel like the offense has really started to hit their stride with Jacoby Myers. I think Jacoby Myers has finally gotten fully acclimated to this offense, and you can tell the connection that he and Trevor Lawrence have. There are a lot of dig routes, a lot of middle of the field stuff. It's no coincidence that 2 of the 3 highest rates of Trevor Lawrence's season of passes throwing over the middle of the field have been after the Jacoby Myers trade. It was the Chargers, and it was today against the Titans. That's no coincidence. You're getting just a reliable receiver over the middle of the field. He is such a security blanket where you feel confident throwing digs to him in traffic. You feel confident designing him stuff underneath because you know he's going to make the catch. The touchdown they threw to him was basically just a designed rub play to get him going underneath the middle of the field, and it makes a lot of sense. And you can tell Trevor Lawrence is playing with a lot more confidence. This was one of his cleanest games of the season. This might have been the cleanest game Trevor Lawrence has played this season. He had a really sick throw to Brenton Strange on the touchdown against Tampa 2, where he tried to spin the pressure away from him, and he ripped this throw to Strange. So the Jaguars are playing a lot of really good football on both sides at the right time. Josh Hines-Allen is starting to convert a lot of those pressures into sacks. And if it wasn't for Myles Garrett being insane, Josh Hines-Allen's probably winning Defensive Player of the Month. But you're getting a Jaguars team peaking at the right time.
Yeah, Jacoby Myers, 5 catches, 90 yards, touchdown. He feels like that weird Christian Kirk year in Jacksonville, where Christian Kirk wasn't good before, good that year, wasn't good after. That's what Jacoby Myers feels like for that offense, what Christian Kirk was for that one weird year in Jacksonville. It's just like Trevor Lawrence trusts him. And if he trusts a guy over the middle of the football field and you are trustworthy there, you'll probably produce in this offense and with Trevor Lawrence.
And I think actually, instead of the Christian Kirk deal, I actually think Jacoby Myers is more Marvin Jones in this offense. Okay. If you remember the 2022 season, Trevor Lawrence was hammering the speed outs to Marvin Jones, dig routes, Marvin Jones, because you knew that you had somebody in tight contested areas and can catch passes over the middle of the field and wasn't worried about getting hit. And I think where the Jaguars went with the Marvin Jones archetype, they, instead of going for guys that were reliable over the middle of the field, they saw Marvin Jones big, tall, fast, and went for Brian Thomas Jr., who is not the same type of receiver. I thought Brian Thomas Jr. actually had a couple of really good plays in this game. He had a sick block on the big Jacoby Myers catch and run where he absolutely dirts Titans DB. But I think with Jacoby Myers, you have a guy who is reliable in those intermediate areas, and that is such a confidence booster for this offense. You think about what Chris Godwin meant to the Bucs last year when he was healthy, and just having that guy over the middle of the field. That's sort of what Jacoby Myers is bringing to this offense. And then, like I said, like, you're getting everybody playing good football at the right time. You're getting the Colts in Jacksonville. The Jaguars haven't lost to the Colts in Jacksonville since 2014. Like, you're first place in the AFC South. Like, who would have thought after that Rams loss in London that this team could be in this spot towards the end of the season?
Yeah, the Athletic has them with an 83% chance now to make the playoffs, 42% chance to win the division. It's kind of a toss-up there. 36% for the Colts, 21% for the Texans. Very much a three-horse race. The only other division that has even close to a three-horse race right now is the NFC West, and we'll get to that a little later. For the Titans, just for a sec, 57% chance to get the number 1 overall pick now, 97% chance to get a top 5 pick. I think the dream scenario is they obviously get the number 1 overall pick, and you get Ty Simpson and Dante Moore come back to school. So it's only Fernando Mendoza. And Fernando Mendoza balls out against Ohio State, tears it up in the playoff. Everyone agrees he's the number 1 overall pick. And you're there with the Tennessee Titans sitting with that wild card, with that lottery ticket. And you have everyone behind you basically thirsting over the quarterback position. I think that's your dream scenario if you're a Titans fan right now.
I think what you're also hoping is potentially, even if you get 2 quarterbacks, our first round caliber in this draft, say Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza both enter, you hope the Jets get froggy. You're hoping teams with multiple draft picks get froggy and want to try and jump for their quarterback. Because they had first overall pick, Cleveland's sitting at 5, the Jets are sitting at 6. If there are only 2 first-round caliber quarterbacks with the Titans and the Raiders in front of them, I could see one of those teams being like, look, we got 2 first-round picks. We need to go get our guy. And so you're hoping, if you're the Titans, trade back, get an extra pick, and try and build out this roster, because it is so devoid of talent. I think Gunnar Helms can be fun. I think Eli Manor and Kamir Adike can be fun. But Cam Ward was out there throwing passes to James Prochet. And Xavier Restrepo is a fine, like, bottom of the roster receiver. He's throwing a lot of passes to those guys. And I'm not even getting started on the defense that has seen a lot of talent go out that door. So they need a lot of picks. They need to keep stacking as much picks as they can to try and rebuild this roster. So yeah, like you said, they're hoping that you get like, this is a 2 quarterback class at max. Like even if there's like one guy, if you get one guy in this class that everybody is sure they're good at, is going to be good, you can trade out of that pick and you're golden.
Let's move on to Rams at Panthers. The upset of the day. Rams win 31-28. The second time a double-digit underdog has won this season in 16 games of under-digit double dogs. The other time was the Carolina Panthers against the Green Bay Packers. This team will not go away, so much so that they very easily could win the NFC South with the way the Bucs look. We'll get to them a little bit later. But my big number from this one, 1.07. That was the Panthers' EPA per play on 3rd and 4th downs in this game. They go 7 of 15 on 3rd downs. And then obviously the big 3 of 3 on 4th downs with 2 massive touchdowns to Jalen Coker and Tedero McMillan.
So there are a couple of questions that I had watching this game. The first one is anybody good in the NFL? Is this just like a year where like anybody can get got? Because the Panthers just look like one of the worst teams in football on Monday night against the 49ers, and then come out and beat what we thought was the best team in football. Second question is, what are the Panthers? You never can tell what you're going to get from this Panthers team. And while that might be exciting for some people, probably not exciting for Panthers fans, but in this game, I actually thought it was a really cool showcase of their young talent. You got the Tetairoa McMillan big play. That was a beautiful throw by Bryce Young. I thought Bryce Young looked really good and really confident under pressure in those tight contested situations. When it came down to winning the football game, Bryce Young made the plays that needed to be made. They checked into that fourth down touchdown to Jalen Coker, who was awesome in this game. 4 catches for, I believe, 76 yards. He was great as as the wide receiver 2 to Tetairoa McMillan's wide receiver 1. I think he can be a really quality player there. You were getting timely plays from Rico Dowdle. You were getting a great Derek Brown game. So this was, for the Panthers, this was their young core stepping up and showing you what the Panthers can be if you keep this young nucleus around.
Yeah, I do think that the receiver position is off to a very good start. That you have talent now around Bryce Young that is adequate to good, and you see next steps for them in their future to where, like, hey, this could be a really good offense. It really is just going to come down to Bryce Young. And if you get this guy every single week, you can beat the Rams. Like, this is, and it's the thing that Panthers fans and Panthers GMs and brass are going to have to muddle over all offseason. It's that he is fully capable of games like this, and those throws that he had on the 4th downs were absolutely nails. Awesome plays. But then how do you square that with, the stretch of 6 straight games where he had under 200 yards? It's just, how do you square that with the guy who disappears for the long stretches that he had this season? It's just going to be tough. And the Panthers are, at this point, pretty much have to give him next year. There is no plan B. Bryce Young is your starter next year, but you could just as easily get the guy who can't pick up a first down on Monday Night Football, we just saw a week ago.
I think with Bryce Young, the consistency, like you said, is the weirdest thing, because we said going into the season, if he can just be I would even say 2023, 2024, like Baker. If he can be that caliber of quarterback where he's not top 10, he's not an elite quarterback, but he is average to above average. If he can be Tua, if he can be, I'd say even Brock Purdy, you can say oh, this is a guy we can put some more stuff around and he'll be legitimately a starting quarterback. But you can never tell with Bryce Young because he always has these peaks and valleys. There's no ironed out consistency. But in this game, he really showed a lot of nice stuff against the blitz, and he's always been really cool when trailing. So I'm really curious what the Panthers do with Bryce Young, not only this season, but next season. Because if this inconsistency keeps going, what decision do you make? You're kind of booking yourself into a corner.
Yeah, and you have the 5th-year decision to make this upcoming offseason as well. So you're kind of making a 2-year decision this offseason on, is he your guy? And, if you truly do believe in him, yeah, you make the 5th year, it's worthwhile and saves you cash, but it's tough. It's going to be tough. And we get, 5 more games to decide, and 5 more games for this Panthers team to potentially make the playoffs. 29% chance right now. Obviously, almost all of that is just winning the West. Not really a chance of making the wild card, given where that stands right now. But they're 7-6. Bucs are 7-5. They have that weird ass last 3 games of the season where they play the Bucs twice, week 16 and 18. Could this actually happen? Could the Bucs be out in the cold come January and the Panthers be in the playoffs?
Why not? Given the volatility of Bryce Young and the volatility of this Panthers offense, why not? We've said before on this show, if you can get hot going into the last game of the season, if you can get hot going into the playoffs, anything can happen. So I'm not going to say I'm guaranteeing the Panthers make the playoffs, but I do think they have a good shot. You play the Saints after the bye week, and then again, it's 2 Bucs games and a Seahawks game. If you can just win the division games you're making the playoffs.
Yeah.
You're in. You've done it. So, I mean, why not? Let's see if Bryce Young can do it. If they can do it, then maybe that'll change the thoughts on Bryce Young.
All right, a few more stats from this game I found interesting. One, the Panthers had 5 total pressures all day. Between not dropbacks with pressure, people who had pressures, they had 5. And one of them obviously is Derek Brown with the game-changing of all game-changing sacks, taking them while they're in field goal range, getting the ball back, and then the Panthers icing it out from there. And then the other one, Davante Adams now has 11 touchdowns in his last 6 games. No one has ever had 2 separate times in their career, 2 separate seasons, where they've had double-digit scores in a 6-game span. Davante Adams becomes the first player in NFL history to do it. He had it in 2020, and he has it this year. The most, though, in a 6-game span, do you know who holds that record?
The most in a 6-game span? I feel like Calvin Johnson didn't do it.
Calvin Johnson did not. Is not one of the ones who did
Wow.
double digits in 6 games. Only, let's see,
Digits in 6 games.
5 guys in NFL history have done so.
Wow. The last guy who did it? Is it Antonio Brown?
No, it actually hasn't been done since 2011. Rob Gronkowski had a stretch in 2011. But Jerry Rice is your record holder with 14. He did in 1987. Sterling Sharp, Packers legend, had 13. And Don Hudson, another Packers legend, had 11. So something about Packers and scoring touchdowns. Davante Adams, though, if he plays like this, he's now 7th all-time in receiving touchdowns. At the rate he's on, he will probably pass Chris Carter for 4th all-time sometime next season with 130. Is he a Hall of Famer if he does so?
I think so. And even if he doesn't make the Hall of Fame, he will be in the Hall of like players who are just cool as hell. Davante Adams is just such a cool receiver. When you think about like the short area footwork, the quickness, and the ability for that to just not age.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you could say maybe he's lost a step in like long speed, but the footwork, the quickness, the focus, all that stuff remaining the same. And now you sort of turn him into just this goal line machine because of the footwork and deception that he has. It's incredible. It really is. Watching him catch that backside slant from Stafford, I tweeted it out. I was like, oh, this is just what Rodgers was doing with Davante when he won MVP. They would just check every run with, hey, just run a backside slant. And if I like it, I'm throwing it to you. Or tag it with a backside fade route. And if I like it, I'm throwing it to you. And they're giving it to him. It's such they're just so cool, such cool players. For this version of Stafford to be meshed with this version of Davante, and then you have Puka Nacua making insane catches like he did today. They're just so cool.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the Rams, I'll say, after this game. It was fluky, to say the least. I still, though, cannot believe this is how Davante Adams' career turned out. Given how his career started, it's easy to forget this guy had a horrendous start to his career. His second season in the NFL. Packers fans wanted Jeff Janis to start over him. This happened. This was a thing. Jeff Janis had more fans than Davante Adams. Davante Adams averaged under 5 yards per target his second season in the NFL. Throwing at him was worse than handing the ball off to like Derrick Henry in terms of yards per play. He was 483 yards on 94 targets. He was just not good. Dropped a lot of passes, and now he's potential Hall of Famer. So
it offers hope for Dontavion Wicks.
Well, it offers hope for a guy we're going to talk about here with the New York Jets in a second and what he did today. You know who we're talking about.
I know exactly what we're talking about. Yep.
Let's move on to Seahawks at Vikings. Seahawks win 26-0. Shut out the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, with Max Brosmer at quarterback. The big number from this, 5. That's the amount of turnovers the Vikings committed in a rough one.
There was no way you could outdo JJ McCarthy's performance this season. and somehow Max Brosmer figured out a way to do it. Like, I honestly have to applaud Max Brosmer and the Vikings for somehow finding a way to make they made Vikings fans want JJ McCarthy back in the game. That's impressive as hell, honestly. According to Matt Harmon, Max Brosmer's negative 0.89 EPA per dropback is the third worst by a quarterback this season. The only two worst were Jake Browning against the Vikings, where Isaiah Rodgers just went insane, and then Tua against the Browns. The unfortunate part of that stat, though, is that there are 5 performances by EPA per dropback this season of the bottom 40. 5 of those are by Vikings quarterbacks this season. That's kind of where it just looked like these teams were on 2 separate like playing fields. And this was not even a great game by Seahawks standards.
Here's the thing about Brosmer, though. It's only one game. I think he could still be a franchise quarterback. I just think he landed in the wrong spot. You know, KOC is not calling good plays for him. There's so much pressure from the offensive line. I think you got to give him another year or 2 as a starter before, you know, you can make any decision on how good Max Brosmer is.
Hey, you know what? If he does 12, do you think he has 12 with JJ's 9 on the pick 6 he threw?
You would think 12 as the personality would have played in Seattle of all places.
You would think so, but 12 was not showing up. The interception looked like it was straight out of the MAC.
Yeah,
where like the pick 6, where like, look, first of all, you just throw it away. Please just throw it away. Second of all, it landed right in Ernest Jones' hands as he was running forward. It was like he was catching a punt, and there was no Viking within like 30 yards of Ernest Jones. It felt like it was coming out of a movie, and that wasn't even the worst interception that he threw on Sunday. So it's really unfortunate for Brosmer to be that guy in the first start, where now you have people comparing him to Nathan Peterman, who I still have to say Max Brosmer did not have a worse game by EPA per play than Nathan Peterman. That will always be like the king of terrible debuts, terrible performances. He did that in one half. Brosmer he just looked overmatched, and the Seahawks just continue to march on defensively. That was dominant by their defensive line. Tank Lawrence was incredible in that game. So this is about what we expected from both these teams.
The thing that sucks about this and about Max Brosmer sucking himself is that it ruined the performance that Brian Flores and this Vikings defense put on.
Oh, yeah.
They put Sam Darnold in a blender in a way no one has really this season. They held Jackson Smith and Jigba, the NFL leading, the on pace to break the record receiver in the NFL this year. He didn't have a catch until 5:22 left in the third quarter. He had 2 catches for 23 yards all game. He did something that no one's been even close to being able to do all season long. Flores and this defense did it, but goes completely unnoticed because they still put 26 on the scoreboard because, well, they got 5 free passes to get those 26 points. But the Vikings defense had an outstanding performance in this one. It's just going to get completely swept under the rug.
And the most impressive thing about this game, Sam Darnold was sacked 4 times. He didn't throw any interceptions. His yards per completion was 4.9. So not only were they heating him up, not only were they blitzing him at a really high rate, they were forcing him to play fast. And Sam Darnold, while he is an incredibly strong and an incredibly aggressive thrower downfield, he is not the quickest processor. So when you're throwing a lot of stuff at him, that's when the seeing ghost thing comes back up, because things are moving too fast. And part of it is Clint Kubiak has really sort of got to help him find some more answers. He got to help find the Seahawks more answers against blitzes and against things that Sam Darnold does not like, whether that means you're bringing everybody in and you're attacking downfield, whether it means you have more chips in protection from your running backs, from your tight ends. You can't always get 5 out. So I wonder where Kubiak and this offense goes, because this is not the first time that this has happened with Sam Darnold this season. So it was a great game plan by Brian Flores that, like you said, is going to get overshadowed by one of the worst offensive performances we've seen this season. And now Justin Jefferson is not talking to reporters after games.
Yeah, if I were him, I wouldn't, though. There's really no upside at this point. It's like he even said it. He's like, I keep saying the same things. And he is going to keep saying the same things because it has to suck going out there week in, week out, knowing that you can do everything right and the ball ain't going to get where it's supposed to be. Alas, such is life for Vikings receivers this season. Seahawks schedule going forward. Falcons, so a little bit of a nice respite. Colts, Rams, Panthers, 49ers. I love that end there. Those are all going to be very interesting games down the stretch, obviously, after this Falcons game. But Seahawks, their chances to get the 1 seed at this point in time, or excuse me, their chance to get the division, 24%, even though they're technically third in the division right now. And their chance to get the 1 seed is at 8%. So still hope. Still a damn good football team, and they showed it this week. Last game here before we take a quick break. 49ers at Browns, 26-8. The 49ers win going away. Not really a great game to watch, but my big number from this one, 87.2%. That is the amount the Browns rookie class accounted for of their yards this week. Between receiving yards, between rushing yards, between passing yards. Only 9 rushing yards and 47 receiving yards did not come from the Browns rookie class today.
I actually thought that this game, from the Browns' perspective, offensively, obviously you really couldn't get much going, hence only 8 points put on the board. But I thought the young guys looked pretty good. I'm a huge fan of Harold Fannin and what he brings to this offense. I think he is already one of the best tight ends after the catch in the NFL. And you can really see him becoming sort of what Isaiah Likely is for the Ravens in terms of getting him on the field, getting him on the move. So I think that makes a lot of sense for what Fannin can be. Quinshon Judkins just give them such a nice efficiency boost. You know, like he's not going to always break 50-yard runs, but he is constantly falling forward. He's creating positive and successful plays. Whereas Dylan Sampson, you get him out in space, you can be electric with him. I think Shedeur Sanders looked a little bit more overwhelmed in this game, largely because he's playing a much better defensive coordinator and a much better defense, like from top to bottom. Although Max Crosby is better than everybody else on the 49ers defense, but I think that he looked a little bit more overwhelmed in this game. And I think a large part of it was because although you just really couldn't find any footing in the passing game, there was not a lot of stuff downfield.
The 4th and 26 scramble that he had cracked me up. I was just like, it just was you're down with, they're down like 18 at the time. It's just like, dude, just like toss it up. That was, just a ridiculous play. And the Browns offense, you know, as we've seen, no matter who's back there, there's just not options. I'm curious how this staff looks next year. If Tommy Rees is still OC, if Kevin Stefanski's even still your head coach, because it's really never looked good at any point this season. But I'm with you in the young talent. I love their running back room. I think Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson have very complementary skill sets to be a 1-2 punch there. Harold Fannin, he's doing all this, and he's one of the youngest players in the NFL. He just turned 21 on the eve of the season. You know, he should get better. The tight ends usually come in the league like Tyler Warren is 23. He's 2 years younger than Tyler Warren. So, like, the next step there could be in his development. He could get stronger. He could get bigger. So a lot to like about, like, this is why I brought that as the big number, is because this is kind of what you want a sucky season to look like. You want to see all the young guys. You want to see Carson Schwarzenegger balling out. You want to see Mason Graham balling out. You want to see the young guys look good. You want to see them get every opportunity to fail that they can. And that's what they're doing. And they'll have a high draft pick next year. And a lot of these guys who are playing meaningful snaps will be even better next year. And so It's a lot more fun to watch this team than it is to say watch, I don't know, the Saints, where they're starting a rookie, but like it doesn't have quite the same feel to it with what they're putting out there week in and week out.
So a couple of things before we get off of this game. First of all, did you see the Myles Garrett sack?
Oh my God.
That's just nobody does that to Trent Williams. We talked about before the game or leading up in our preview was Trent Williams was probably the only guy who athletically could match up with Myles Garrett. And then Myles Garrett does that. And you're sort of just like, oh, like there's levels to this.
There's actually no one. There's actually no one who can match up with Myles Garrett.
There's just nobody who can match with him. The fact that he starts his pass rush upfield, notices the chip, and like teleports to the inside shoulder of Trent Williams before Williams can even register that move, that doesn't happen to Trent Williams. Like, he made Trent Williams look mortal. So it's just, again, another sack. He has 19, I believe, at this point, and the Browns play the Titans next week. He could get the record in that game. I legitimately think he could get the sack record in week 14 because of the Titans.
Oh man, Cam Ward's internal clock right now is the worst in the NFL.
If he gets a single season sack record by week 14, like, that's insane levels of production. Like, that's incredible. And then the second thing that I want to talk about, did you see Shelby Harris talking about Jawan Jennings after the game? The fact that he doubled down on the I want you to know that. I want you to hear this. He is telling the reporters, like, look, it was just a heater from top to bottom. Like, he was like, somebody punched you in the nuts, they should have punched you in the jaw. Like, that was just, for Shelby Harris, a guy who was sort of like one of the OGs of the Browns, doesn't really like, Shelby Harris don't really do that. For Shelby Harris to really like come out and say, like, somebody should punch you in the jaw or punch you in the nuts again, what did you do? What did you say? You had to have said something heinous for them to act up like that.
Oh, that was, I am very curious what he did, because that was pure like revenge. He's just that was malice, that was hatred, he had no more time for Jawan Jennings. So very curious what he did do. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. After that, going to hit the rest of the Week 13 slate, and then we're going to cap off the show with a little Thanksgiving and Black Friday takeaways.
I wasn't ready to die.
The wait is over.
I need to know what happened.
Discover the mystery everyone's been talking about. School Spirits, every episode of all seasons now streaming on Paramount+.
Bucs-Cardinals. Bucs win a tight one, 20-17. A lot of interesting storylines from this one, but my big number, and this stat is crazy to me, it's 312.6. That is the passing yards per game from Jacoby Brissett this season. It's the highest in the NFL. That's so far and away higher than Kyler's. Kyler's was 192.4. In every single game this season, Jacoby Brissett has more passing yards than Kyler Murray's best passing output when he was starting quarterback for Arizona.
People are going to ask if the offensive coordinator or the quarterback is the problem in Arizona, and the answer is probably just yes. Like, I think Drew Petzing can be a good coordinator. There's a lot of just inefficiencies that he has. A lot of the play sequencing is just bad. But Kyler Murray also is just not a good fit for this offense. And so you just begin to wonder, what is the fit for Kyler Murray's like skill set now? But Jacoby Brissett is going to throw that ball. Like, if he came into the NFL in like 2005, instead of when he came to the NFL, he'd be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, because he just is always attacking downfield, over the middle of the field. The touchdown to Trey McBride was really cool. He's going to take a lot of hits, going to get sacked a lot because he's just sort of stationary. But like you said, like, he's the 33rd best quarterback in the NFL. If your quarterback is not better than Jacoby Brissett, you need a new quarterback. But if he is, then you're good.
On the flip side, Tampa Bay Bucs, is it time to just admit that they really miss Liam Cohen? Like we can make excuses for the injuries all we want. This Bucs offense has been kind of rough now for a couple months. Was rough again in this one, even though Bucky Irving's back in the backfield. I think the common denominator is just they don't have Liam Cohen walking through that door anymore.
I think part of it is not having Liam Cohen, but I also think part of it is they don't have Mike Evans, and this offense doesn't have Mike Evans. Of course, Bucky Irving's still kind of getting up to speed. He's I think he was on a pitch count in this game, so you weren't really getting the full Bucky Irving. I thought the touchdown was really cool, though. But they don't have anybody on the outside. They don't have any tight window erasers. They don't have anybody who can go get them a bucket in those third down scenarios. It's a lot on Emeka Egbuka, who is a good rookie, but like we said going into draft prep, he was going to be a guy that you needed to create targets, like create schemed up targets for that can't win when, you're facing opposing outside like CB1s for most of the game. He's going to shred second corners, but you need Mike Evans to take a lot of pressure off him. Chris Godwin is starting to ramp it back up. He's starting to turn it back up, but he's more of a power slot at this point in his career. But I do also think just Baker Mayfield's been playing sort of skittish. And I think a lot of it has been because of all the hits he's taken. A lot of it's due to the shoulder injury that he has. But him being skittish doesn't help this offense, because that was the whole thing behind what the offense is supposed to do. Is supposed to help Baker sort of calm down. So the fact that he's still being a little skittish is really worrisome. But overall, I just think they need Mike Evans back.
I had pulled some stats here. Their EPA per play last year without Mike Evans, it was, I believe, 3 games. 0.062. Still solid. Not elite, but still solid. It's a lot better with him. A lot better with him this year. Still solid. Without him this year, negative 0.098. As a bottom 6-figure in the NFL. They've gone from, a very good offense with him to utterly incompetent. I mean, this is not a good football team. This team's on par with the Carolina Panthers right now without him in the lineup. They just are. You can debate it all you want. That's the level of football they've been playing since he's been out of the lineup, unfortunately. And, Emeka Egbuka was a great early season storyline, but he ain't Mike Evans. When Evans went down, since Evans went down, 57 targets, 25 catches, 42% completion percentage, 323 yards. It's under 5 yards per target, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. The before with Evans, 27 of 42, 469 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks when targeting him. He has not been – it's some part of that's Baker. Baker's missed him a lot, to be fair. But he has not been the number one that they need. They really just don't have a guy right now.
Yeah, they need their number one guy back. And I think Josh Grizzard, he's trying stuff. He's trying a lot of cool things. He's mixing up some of the run pass variations. He's trying to get Rachaad White and Bucky Irving on the field together. But again, there have been drops. Baker's missed a lot of passes, and they don't have anybody who can erase Baker's inefficiencies the way Mike Evans can. And so the question is, 1, when is Mike Evans coming back? And 2, if you're trying to get him back before the playoffs, you might not even get that chance. The whole point behind letting Mike Evans get to 100% was you could sleepwalk through this division. But with the Panthers looking the way they are, you might need to bring him back soon.
Saints next week, Falcons the week after that, then Panthers, then Dolphins, then Panthers again. We'll see how it plays out. The Athletic likes the Bucs' chances, but they have them at 73%, but I feel like it's more of a toss-up in my eyes right now. The fact that they had to eke out a 20-17 win over the Cardinals, I just don't think this is a great football team right now, unfortunately. Let's move on to the Chargers at Raiders. We don't have to stay long. What's your big number from this one?
My big number is 0 because that's how many normal seasons the Chargers can have. They were clearly the better team. This was a beatdown by all proportions. After the game, Jim Harbaugh said Justin Herbert has a break in his left hand and will have a medical procedure tomorrow. There you go. It's one of those seasons for the Chargers. Justin Herbert said that he's going to try and play on Monday night against the Eagles. But again, we've seen quarterbacks try and rush back with broken bones in their hand wrist area. Not great. It's his left hand, so it's not his throwing hand, but still, you got to do a lot of stuff with the left hand as well, like handing the ball off. You eliminate basically under center with the left hand, with a broken left hand. You're exclusively shotgun. And it's really hard to run the ball out of exclusively shotgun unless you put your quarterback in running situations. And you can't do that with a quarterback with a broken hand. So this feels like the Chargers are so uniquely cursed where I think the football gods are kind of just screwing with them. They're coming into the season with a really promising right tackle and an all-pro left tackle. Take out both of them. They're still in the playoffs somehow. Break the quarterback's hand. Their pass rush is doing great. Take out their best pass rusher for 5 weeks in the middle of the season on a broken elbow. It's just one of those seasons for the Chargers, and it sucks.
I say one of those seasons. It's every season, unfortunately, as you said. Still, though, 63% chance of making the playoffs. It's crazy because this one fully healthy. If they had both starting tackles, if you had Marion Hampton, the list I can go on and on about guys you could have. If you had them on this roster, how good would this team be?
Awesome.
It has to give Chargers fans so much hope that you're 8-4, playing with a zombie roster right now. You add some more pieces to this defense, you get guys back healthy. This could be a Super Bowl team next year. I think we can all agree that it would be such a long shot for this team to be a Super Bowl team this year. But, man, Jim Harbaugh, a masterclass of a season. And, again, an absolute beatdown of a team that in Las Vegas Raiders, I just feel bad for – they're good players at this point. I feel watching Max Crosby, you're just why is he you just have to admire how hard he's still going out there. Brock Bowers, the one-handed grab.
Incredible.
It was so good that he had Andrew Catalon, the play-by-play, calling it incomplete. He's just the pass is incomplete. It's no, actually he caught that. That was one of the best catches you'll ever see. And you just kind of these guys are nasty, nasty players, just going out there, getting their heads kicked in because this Raiders team is just abysmal at this point.
It sucks for them because you can say guys like Bowers, Max Crosby, Ashton Junty. I even think Adam Butler has played really good this season. The drop-off from Bowers, Junty, Crosby to the next player on the team and Adam Butler – drastic. You're saying Adam, I'm here saying Adam Butler's been pretty fun. He's a early down specialist. He offers nothing as a pass rusher, but he is a run defender. He is the 4th best player on the team at this point. So that's where the Raiders roster is in the state of the roster. And we knew it would sort of be like this because Josh McDaniels left this roster terrible situation. Antonio Pierce also left this roster. Horrible situation. So they're trying to build everything back up from basically the rubble, but you're not really getting the same level of just competence. So they're going to go in with a new staff, new head coach, new offensive coordinator. I don't know what's going to happen with Patrick Graham, but I do think that they have some guys there. They have at least 3 core players that you can rely on.
I did not think a Pete Carroll team would bottom out. One thing I thought in my entire career, Pete's entire career, was that his teams compete from week 1 to week 18. They don't I don't want to say the Ravens giving up, but they don't like bottom out where she's like, oh, this team is not even competitive. They've lost 6 straight. They are completely out of it at this point. Obviously 2-10, completely eliminated from the playoffs. One of 4 teams, I believe now. He's gone. He cannot survive this season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he's done. I think being 74 and this roster being in the shape that it is, he was always sort of going to be the guy that helps bring it up for the next guy. But now this process has to be expedited because this team is just awful.
Let's move on to the Dolphins at Saints. Speaking of awful football teams, the Dolphins win 21-17. What's your big number from this one?
My big number from this is 134. That's how many rushing yards Devon Achane had. This was awful football. This was just the worst football. There was some terrible defense being played by both teams. There was a pick 2, then an onside kick recovered, and then a failed tush push to end the game. That failed tush push was just like, all right, man, I've had enough of Kellen Moore. I think I'm at that point with the Saints where, like, I don't think Kellen Moore should get another year as head coach. And that was sort of the worst case scenario for this team, was finding out that Kellen Moore is not it. This team is sort of the antithesis of what the Eagles want to be in terms of run the ball, stop the run. The Saints can't run the ball. They also can't stop the run. And so you're always constantly putting yourself in terrible scenarios where your young quarterback is going to have to try and lead you out of every hole that you dig yourself in, because you can't run the ball, and then you can't stop the run, so you don't have any ability to get the ball back. So now you're just sort of sitting here trying to hope that your young quarterback digs you out of every hole possible. So I think Kellen Moore should be done. There's nothing that he really offers this team as a play designer, play caller, and then some of his game management stuff has just been really bad this season. So I know this team is still devoid of talent, but Kellen Moore hasn't really done anything to really show me, like, yeah, this guy should get another year.
Yeah, I wasn't super thrilled about the hire to begin with, but the only pushback I would say to that is it depends on where this team ends up picking. If they are for sure in slam dunk, we're going to get a quarterback territory, yeah, I'd probably fire Kellen Moore and let whatever young quarterback develop with, a different OC. Hopefully they can get. But if you're not, who are you going to get? Who wants to go coach the New Orleans Saints if they're not going to get a quarterback? And if you're drafting 6th overall, they're not going to get a quarterback in this year's draft. You're rolling with Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler again next year. Who wants the Saints job? Who's going to? And yeah, money still talks, and head coaching opportunity is a head coaching opportunity, but you ain't getting the top candidate if that's the case. So that would be my only pushback, is that, like, the bed has been made and it is going to be ugly for a couple more seasons after this, at least for the Saints.
Well, the spin zone, if you're a Saints fan, you got a Titans game left this season. Week 17, you do play the Titans in Tennessee. If there's any game that you really got to lose, it's the Titans game and the Jets game. If you can lose both of those, first overall pick, you're golden. You're good. But I do hear you when it comes to, like, if you're picking a quarterback, you need to completely clean house. My next question is, are you getting rid of Mickey Loomis? And is this ownership group willing to let go of Mickey Loomis finally? I don't know if the answer to that is yes or no, because they're so annoying. The Saints are annoying because they know what their problems are, and it's like, no, I'm just going to keep digging this hole deeper. $30 million to another, like, aging veteran to try and make this roster more competitive than it actually is.
Do you want to hear a stat? I guess not really a stat. Do you want to hear something that sounds fake? Like, it's not true, but it is.
Oh, boy. Let's do it.
Dolphins are a game back of the Chiefs. One game. That means if the Chiefs lose next week and the Dolphins win, The Dolphins and the Chiefs will have the exact same record this season. It's unbelievable.
I feel like
let's go deep into it, but like they're 5-7. The Chiefs are 6-6.
This is going to lead to, again, we talked about it last week. The Dolphins are going to think that they're a better team than they actually are, and they're not going to make any changes this offseason. Like they're going to go in and be like, look, let's keep Mike McDaniel around. Players love him, which I do think is very fair, but we can run it back. We'll bring back Tua. Tyreek Hill will be back healthy. Let's try and roll this train back again.
The problem is you with some of these, like Tua's contracts, like you don't really have a choice. And so that may, they're I don't want to say they're like the Saints, but they're in a situation where the cap situation is bad, that there is no quick fix. There is no just cutting bait, getting a new quarterback, starting over. So it's like, yeah, if you're stuck with Tua, you probably want the guy whose offense is the best fit for what Tua is capable of doing. And I have been surprised with how competitive this team has been down the stretch. How much after the Chris Greer firing, things kind of have turned around. So I do think Mike McDaniel and Tua are your head coach and quarterback next year.
I think so too, and not only because of how much he gets out of Tua, but how much he gets out of Devon Achane, how much he gets out of Jalen Waddle, the growth that Patrick Paul has had this season. For all those reasons, McDaniel's going to continue to be around. It's just now like, can you get some more talent on this team?
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed their starting offensive line. If you put their starting offensive line in front of Justin Fields, it would be a war crime. Like it only can work with the head coach quarterback pairing that they have. So if they actually had some talent, I'd be very interested to see where this offense could push if they had some talent up front. But we'll see. All right, last game here. Jets-Falcons. Jets win 27-24. Not helping their draft stock, but they don't really seem to care about that right now. What's your big number from this game?
My big number is 9, not because of J.J. McCarthy, but because that is the pick in the first round that the Falcons are currently giving to the Los Angeles Rams. This was the worst case scenario for the Falcons. When you make that trade for James Pierce, this was the worst case scenario. You don't find out anything about your team. You don't find out if Michael Penix Jr. is your guy. You don't figure out if this offense, if this head coach can finally do the thing and get this Falcons team into the playoffs. That's why you make this trade, because you assume, this team's going to be in the playoffs. You don't have the answer to any of those questions. So now you're going into 2026 with an injury-prone quarterback in Michael Penix, who can be good but has to stay on the field. Kirk Cousins, who is Kirk Cousins at this stage. No first-round pick. And you're going to have to give out big money to Bijan Robinson. You have to give big money to Drake London. I don't know what happens with Kyle Pitts. This has been his best year since his rookie year. I don't know what happens there. There's just a lot of questions to be asked. And I don't even know if this head coach and GM is still going to be around next year.
Yeah, this was a nightmare. And it's pick 9, and there's a real chance it goes even higher than that. They don't have an easy schedule going forward, which isn't good for them. That means they're going to lose more games and get even higher pick. They got the Seahawks, they got the Bucs, Cardinals, Rams, Saints. So Cardinals, Saints are your 2 that you're looking for there that they could win. But if they lose that Cardinals game, it means the Cardinals they jumped the Cardinals, who are picking 8 right now. That means that pick is probably ending up somewhere in like the 6 to 7 range if they only beat the Saints the rest of the season, win only 5 games. Whew, giving up pick 6 or 7, you can hype up James Pierce all you want. That's going to hurt. It's
going to hurt mainly because James Pierce has been a rotational pass rusher. You gave up a 6 overall pick for a guy who plays 30% of the snaps. Like, that's just not how smart franchises work. Like, I hate to say that's not how smart franchises operate, but you see the good teams stay good by making picks and making plays in the draft knowing that they're not banking everything on a lot of unknowns. You're not banking everything on a quarterback that is going to be a first-year starter. You know, you don't make those type of plays. And although you can think James Pierce Jr. can be good, that's fine. But in the right now, you're giving up a top 6 pick, a pick that could be, and I hate to use it could be anything, but the Falcons could really use that top 6 pick. Like, there's a lot of things that they need right now. So it's just, like you said, nightmare scenario for the Falcons.
And everyone brings up, the Rams going 8 years or whatever without a first-round pick. But don't worry, bring up that they used those first-round picks to trade for Brandon Cooks, Jalen Ramsey, Matt Stafford. They were trading for legitimately good players right now. And that's how they ended up winning the Super Bowl. Trading a future first-round pick for a wild card who himself is an unknown is often dangerous business. And really only the math makes the risk outweighs the reward if it's quarterback. If the reward is massive, not if it's, as you said, a situational pass rush. Like, I don't think James Pierce has too much upside in the run game. It's not who he is. So, yeah, we don't have to keep harping on it, but we will definitely track where the Falcons are picking. But we just have to mention this. Adonai Mitchell.
I was going to say, we got to talk about the A.D. Mitchell catch.
8 catches, 102, touchdown. Woo!
There it is.
That's what he's capable of. He's obviously capable of the bad too. But I think I went on a Jets podcast and I said, this guy is one of the 10 most talented wide receivers in the NFL from like pure talent perspective. And a lot of people were like, what the hell is this guy talking about? I got a lot of negative feedback from that. He makes plays like this, and he is one of the 10 most talented receivers in the NFL from a physical capabilities perspective. He is not that from a technical, reliable, any other perspective, but like this was a awesome kind of icing on the cake for that Sauce Gardner trade to get included, because what he could be is exactly what this offense needs across from Garrett Wilson. And if you just get like a Mekhi Lemon in the draft, or like a guy who's like uber reliable over the middle of the football field, you got it all. You got everything you could possibly want there at the Jets receiving position.
In a way, since Tanner Engstrand's offense coordinator, in a way, it feels like A.D. Mitchell is sort of the Jets' Jameson Williams.
Yes.
In terms of just what they bring to the respective offenses. A.D. Mitchell and Jameson Williams aren't the most technically refined receivers, but their speed tilts the field. And you saw it on the touchdown today, which, again, post versus quarters. Imagine that. You got, again, a big play downfield from an explosive receiver. You need those explosive plays to open up abilities for Garrett Wilson in the in-between areas, for a guy like Mason Taylor, for the run game to really breathe. You need those types of explosives. You need the threat of those explosives on the field. So if A.D. Mitchell can just at least, he doesn't have to be consistently like a top 10 receiver in the NFL. But if you can just provide those few explosives every game, if it can be like a 20-yard catch here, 40-yard catch there, big explosive touchdown like he had against the Falcons, that's worth it. For this trade that they made, this was a low risk, like high reward because of what he can be. And I thought that this game was a really great example of what he can be in this offense. Now let's get a quarterback in here and see what happens.
Big if they get a quarterback. We'll see who it ends up being. But I do think the situation, because I think they'll also draft a wide receiver. I think the situation will be pretty damn good for whoever is stepping in there next year. Let's take a break. After that, we're going to get to some Thanksgiving and Black Friday takeaways.
What's he like? The happy-faced killer?
You mean my dad? Be glad you never have to know.
You think that you're so much better than me.
You are just like your old man.
I am not like you at all.
All right, JP, I'm going to read off the scores. Afterwards, you jump right in wherever you want to jump in to talk about whatever's on your mind from these games. We'll just go back and forth. Start with Packers win 31-24. Then you had Dallas upsetting the Chiefs 31-28. Bengals beat down of the Ravens with Joe Burrow back 32-14. And then the Bears beat the Eagles on Friday 24-15.
I kind of want to start at the top with the Packers and the Lions because this was exactly what you want to see if you're a Packers fan. This was, honestly, it was an incredible game by Jordan Love.
Oh, my God.
And I thought this was the game that a lot of Packers fans, a lot of NFL fans wanted to see from Jordan Love. In this game, according to True Media, Jordan Love against man coverage with 9 of 18 for 100 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a .32 EPA per play. That is blistering. And I think the understated growth of Jordan Love against man coverage, against blitzes, I think he's always had that potential, but his ability to he'll get knocked for drifting in the pocket, but the fact that he can drift and still get velocity on passes, that's what matters a lot. But the thing that he's added to his golf club is the ability to diagnose these pressures before the play starts. His pre-snap recognition and command of the offense has gotten so much better, and I just think that the Packers receivers are elevated by Jordan Love. It is not, of course, the scheme is great, but Jordan Love elevates these guys. Dontavion Wicks was making great plays against man coverage the entire game. You had a sick Christian Watson explosive, but I just felt like Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love were just dialed in on every single man coverage option that the Lions threw at them. And it makes it really hard to play defense when you're a man coverage heavy team and you're just getting shredded every time you go to man.
Yeah, I feel like this is Jordan Love's easily most accurate stretch of his career in terms of ball placement. And I think you saw it, the last 2 throws of the game. The throw to Watson, that was a perfectly placed ball that he drops on the 3rd down. And then the 4th down throw to Wicks, again, tight coverage. There's just when a cornerback's on a wide receiver's back, there's not a lot of places that are good places to put it. And both of those throws in crunch time situations, he put it exactly where it needed to be. Some of those balls didn't get hauled in. A lot of those balls haven't gotten hauled in over the course of the year. But I do think his accuracy is on a different level than we've ever seen it at in years prior.
Yeah, he has taken his game to another level this season. And while the Packers offense hasn't always had their consistent highs, I think his growth has to be acknowledged and applauded going into this final stretch of the season.
The Frank Ragnow thing is interesting because
oh my gosh,
he was going to be on the Lions. He was going to come back and he failed his physical. And now he's not going to return to the Lions, apparently.
He failed his physical because of a grade 3 hamstring strain. What were you doing walking around? How did you walk into the facility?
What like
3?
What was the impetus where he's like, I'm coming back. Oh, wait, and not knowing, like, did he work out all fall?
I think he was always preparing himself if needed be to come back. And given the state of the Lions' interior offensive line with Mahogany out, with the way that they looked against the Packers, I thought it was just incredible timing. I thought Dan Campbell made the phone call and be like, hey, we need you. And Frank was like, I got you, coach. I'm coming back. And then they go to the physical and his hamstring is falling off the bone. So it just sucks. That's one of those, like, it could have been such a good morale and like team booster for the Lions to get a guy like Ragnow back. But now that he's not coming back, it sort of feels like, look, this new version of the Lions has to be better for them to make the playoffs, which at this point, I believe they only have like a 36% chance.
It's down to 30 after this weekend because of the Panthers winning, because of the Cowboys winning, because of the Bears winning, because of the 49ers winning. Basically, all the teams they didn't want to win, they all won. It was the literal worst case scenario for the Detroit Lions this weekend. And 30% chance is almost unfathomable given where this team was a year ago. So, yeah, I still think this is probably one of the 5 best teams in the NFC. Honestly, after the Eagles, Rams, Packers, Seahawks, gun to my head, this is the next best team. but they had a gauntlet of a schedule. That's sometimes the way it goes when you're the number one seed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I want to talk about the Friday game, and then we can go to
Yeah.
Jets if you want. But I said the Eagles are better than the Lions. I don't know if I for sure believe that. Obviously, we just had a couple weeks ago, and they won. But I don't know if this Eagles team is good. The offense is anemic. They have averaged 15.5 points per game over the past 4 games against the Packers, Lions, Cowboys, Bears. Packers are good defense. Lions, Cowboys, Bears are not at this point in time. That's their lowest scoring month in 20 years. They just gave up 281 rushing yards to the Bears. And Jalen Hurts, I think the shine's worn off for Eagles fans. I remember when I put him in the same tier in the offseason when we were doing quarterback tiers. I put him in the same tier as guys like Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, Bo Nix. Eagles fans did not enjoy that at the time. I think they may be coming around to the fact that, like, hey, if everything else is not going great around Jalen Hurts may not put the team on his back.
So the thing with Jalen Hurts is he requires such a specific offense. And for Jalen Hurts to work in this offense, you have to run him. But they're not running him. And
it's funny they did once actually. They brought it up on the broadcast. I can't remember who exactly. Like as soon as they brought it up, they did run him once, and I think that was it. And then maybe once down the stretch, I think they had 2 design runs in that game. But like to your point, yes, they really are not featuring him in the offenses.
With the way that the offensive line has just been poor this season, with Saquon Barkley not providing the same amount of pop, you need something to be efficient and to be successful in this offense. Of course, the Eagles offense can still be explosive because you have those guys on the outside and A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. But their success rate this season is probably the scariest thing about this team. They're 23rd in success rate this season, 41.95%. That's below teams like the Bengals, Ravens, and the Jets. The Jets have a better success rate on offense than the Eagles right now. That's horrendous. And it's because they're not generating the 5-yard carries. They're not consistent. And that was part of their run game. The run game was supposed to be consistent. They got Saquon Barkley to take some of the pressure off of Jalen Hurts as a runner. But now that's sort of dried up, you need Jalen Hurts to be a runner for this offense to work because he's not a quick game passer. He's not a middle of the field passer. He doesn't throw with a lot of anticipation in that area. You can't rely on 50-50 passes to make this offense go because you're seeing a lot more too high because you can't run the ball. So the only way to get teams out of too high is you run the quarterback if you're going to be in gun all the time. So they have a lot of problems to solve. And on top of that, like you said, the 281 rushing yards they gave up is the second highest. Or no, the 281 rushing yards they gave up is the most by any Vic Fangio coach defense from 2018 to 2025.
I do have to tip my cap, though, to this Chicago Bears team. Their offensive line and run game turnaround from early in the season has just been night and day. And they're dominant. I mean, truly, they had Kyle Monungai went for 130 on 22 carries. That's like, a great rushing performance if you're any team. Hey, Jabber Swift also went for 125 on 18 carries. They basically had 2 running backs have awesome running game performances in the exact same game.
It's incredible, honestly. And like you said, the turnaround that they've had at the beginning of the season, they were sort of trying to be more of like an inside zone, like power counter team. And they flipped that on its head during the season, be like, okay, we're just going to lean on outside zone and we're just going to try and hammer teams moving forward. And it's worked. They inserted Theo Benedet, who also didn't play. Ozzie Trapilo came into this game and they just kept hammering this team. And I think it was a really good performance by Ben Johnson of designing the run game, the intentionality behind the motions and all the stuff they do to attack certain players on the field. I just think it's all really well done. And so the fact that the Bears are still 8-3 and just beat the defending Super Bowl champions without the quarterback playing very well, again, the ceiling is sky high for this team.
All right, the other two Thanksgiving games, Ravens offense, anemic. Chiefs defense, not Super Bowl caliber. Are these teams even making the playoffs at this point?
That's the question we're all asking. Like, for a Ravens team who, like I said, I think they're going to win the division. I don't think that's because of how good they've been, though. I think it's because everybody else is just going to fall apart. And when you talked about at the top with the Steelers, with the Bengals being 4-8 or 3-8, don't do this. Don't do this to yourself. Don't talk yourself into the Bengals making the playoffs. They're not. This defense is still awful. They were just helped out by the Ravens turning the ball over 5 times. And it wasn't even like horrendous interceptions. They were just some of the worst fumble luck that you'll see in a game. Lamar simply was just like, I don't want the ball. Like, okay, it's fine. Yeah. But I do think the Ravens' inability to protect Lamar Jackson and their inability to consistently find lanes in the run game has completely shut this offense down. And it goes back to the personnel issues. I think Todd Monken has tried really hard to get stuff going on the ground. It just hasn't worked. And then Lamar, it just doesn't look like he's moving the same. And you can make the argument that he did sort of rush back to try and get this Ravens team to the playoffs. He just doesn't look healthy. And if he's not healthy and the Ravens offense isn't the face-melting unit that they always are, you can't reliably trust this defense to keep games low scoring enough for them to figure it out.
We will get much more into the Ravens' offensive struggles when they face the Steelers next week, and we'll get much more into the Chiefs' defensive struggles when they face the Texans next week. Hopefully, should be able to shut them down, but we shall see. There is your Week 13 recap. We'll be back on Tuesday, breaking down all things Monday Night Football, tiering all the playoff teams, talking a little draft. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, keep pushing.